The year was 2387, and Earth had been hiding for 200 years. Not from criminals or terrorists, but from something far worse. 70 years ago, humanity's telescopes picked up strange signals from deep space. At first, scientists thought it was just natural cosmic noise. But Dr. Bohra, a young astrophysicist working at the Chandra Observatory, discovered the truth. Those signals were weapons fire, massive weapons that could destroy entire planets. A war was happening out there among the stars, and it had been going on for decades. The war was between two powerful alien empires. The Valkyrians were a brutal military force that conquered planets and took resources. The Thessians were slightly better, but they still believed in controlling other species. Thousands of star systems had been destroyed in their endless conflict. When Earth's leaders learned about this, they made a difficult choice. Chancellor Day 1, the head of Earth's United Council, decided that humanity would go silent. Every radio signal was stopped. Every satellite was hidden. Earth became invisible to the galaxy. For 2 centuries, this plan worked. Humanity lived in peace, believing they were safe. Commander He-Jin ran the Sentinel Station, a large space platform orbiting Earth. He trained his crew every day, preparing for an attack that never came. Most people thought the drills were pointless. The war was light years away. Earth was forgotten. But He-Jin had a bad feeling. His brother had died in a training accident years ago, and since then He-Jin trusted his instincts. Something felt wrong. One morning, Dr. Bohra was studying Neptune through her instruments when she saw something impossible. Space was bending near the planet. Gravity was acting strange. She checked her equipment 3 times, but the readings were real. Within an hour, the distortion grew larger. Then the satellites at the edge of the solar system started sending emergency signals. Something huge was arriving. 3 massive objects dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune. They were ships, but not human ships. Each one was as large as a city, covered in weapons and armor. The Valkyrians had found Earth. Commander He-Jin received the alert while he was sleeping. He rushed to the command center and saw the data. His blood turned cold. 3 warships were sitting at the edge of the solar system, and they were scanning everything. Within hours, a message came through. It was not friendly. The message was simple mathematical symbols that translated to basic words: submit or be harvested. The aliens were not here to talk. They were here to take what they wanted. Chancellor Day 1 called an emergency meeting. The entire United Council gathered in a secure bunker deep underground. Everyone was terrified. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight even though Earth had almost no weapons that could hurt these massive ships. The Council argued for hours while the Valkyrian deadline counted down. 72 hours. That was all the time humanity had to decide their fate. Captain Yanwu was a young fighter pilot who had never seen real combat. She flew experimental ships that were designed for defense, not war. When she heard about the alien ships, she wanted to fight immediately. But her commander told her to wait. Earth's few weapons were old and weak. The Valkyrians would destroy them easily. Yanwu felt frustrated and helpless. She had trained her whole life for this, but now it seemed pointless. Meanwhile, Engineer Tae Yang was working in a secret underground facility. For years, he had been building weapons that the government said were illegal. Earth's policy was defensive only, but Tae Yang believed that policy would get everyone killed. He had created kinetic weapons that could accelerate rocks to incredible speeds using particle accelerators. He had designed nuclear-powered lasers. He had built things that could hurt an alien warship, but he had never told anyone because he would have been arrested. When the Valkyrian ultimatum arrived, Tae Yang knew it was time to speak up. He contacted Commander He-Jin directly and revealed everything. At first, He-Jin was angry. Tae Yang had broken the law, but then He-Jin saw the weapon designs and realized something important. These weapons might actually work. He brought Tae Yang to the emergency council meeting. During the meeting, Commander He-Jin made a bold move. Without asking permission, he launched a reconnaissance drone toward the Valkyrian ships. The drone was small and fast, designed to gather information and escape. It flew past the alien vessels, scanning them with every sensor it had. What it found was surprising. The Valkyrian ships were damaged. Their hulls showed signs of recent battles. These were not fresh warships at the peak of their power. These were survivors, possibly running from the Thessians. Dr. Bohra analyzed the drone data carefully. She noticed something else important. The way the Valkyrians were behaving suggested they did not know how weak Earth really was. They had seen Earth's cloaking technology and satellite network. They assumed humanity was hiding because they were a military power, not because they were afraid. This gave her an idea. What if Earth did not try to hide their weakness? What if they did the opposite? What if they made the Valkyrians think Earth was even more dangerous than it appeared? Engineer Tae-yang immediately understood what Dr. Bora was suggesting. It was a bluff. A massive, desperate bluff. Earth could not win a real fight, but maybe they could win a psychological one. He proposed a plan. Activate every defense system at once. Make it look like Earth had been hiding a huge military force. Launch fighters that appeared more advanced than they really were. Use the particle accelerator weapons to hit the damaged sections of the Valkyrian ships. Make it look easy. Chancellor Day One listened to the plan and felt sick. It was risky and might fail completely, but surrender meant slavery. Humanity would be harvested for resources and labor. Their civilization would end. At least this plan gave them a chance. He approved the operation. Earth had 12 hours before the deadline. 12 hours to transform from helpless victims into something that looked dangerous. Captain Yanwu got her orders. She would lead the attack. Her experimental fighters were fast and small. The Valkyrians had never seen anything like them. Tae-yang installed his illegal weapons on the fighters. They were one-shot devices. Each pilot could fire once before their weapon burned out. But that one shot could punch through alien shields. It had to work. As the deadline approached, Earth's military activated everything. Satellites that had been dark for centuries suddenly turned on. Defense platforms powered up. The fighters launched from hidden bases. From the Valkyrian ships, it must have looked like humanity had been hiding an enormous fleet. In reality, it was smoke and mirrors. But the aliens did not know that. Yanwu led her squadron straight at the damaged Valkyrian warship. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart was pounding. She knew many of her pilots would not survive this. The Valkyrian defenses opened fire, filling space with energy weapons. 2 fighters exploded immediately. Then 3 more, but the rest kept coming. Yanwu waited until she was close enough to see the battle damage on the alien hull. Then she fired. Her weapon hit the weakest point of the Valkyrian ship. The kinetic projectile, moving at a fraction of light speed, punched through the damaged armor. Secondary explosions rippled across the hull. The entire warship began to break apart. Yanwu pulled her fighter away as the alien vessel exploded in a massive fireball. Earth's first attack had destroyed one of the 3 ships. The other 2 Valkyrian vessels immediately retreated. They moved back to the outer solar system and stopped. They were not running away completely, but they were not advancing either. They were confused and cautious. Earth had surprised them. The psychological warfare was working. The Valkyrian ships sat at the edge of the solar system for 3 days after their warship exploded. During that time, they sent no messages. They just watched and waited. Commander Hai Jin, who was now promoted to admiral, watched them back. He knew the psychological game was not over. Earth had won 1 battle, but the aliens were broadcasting emergency signals across the galaxy. Those signals were spreading through space at the speed of light. Soon, everyone would know about Earth. Dr. Bora worked day and night, intercepting alien communications. Her team had learned to decode some of the Valkyrian language. The messages they were sending were worse than expected. The Valkyrian Empire was calling Earth a hostile threat. They were sending a much larger fleet. Even worse, the Thessians had also noticed. The Thessian coalition, the other major power in the Galactic War, was now interested in humanity. Dr. Bora calculated that Earth had about 6 months before new fleets arrived. 6 months to prepare for something they could not possibly survive. Chancellor Day One declared martial law. This meant the military was now in control of everything. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Scientists who studied climate change started studying alien technology. Engineer Tae-yang became one of the most important people on Earth. His secret weapons had worked, so now he was in charge of making more. But he had a different idea. He proposed something that sounded crazy. Instead of building real weapons, Earth should build fake ones. The plan was called Operation Phantom Fleet. Tae-yang explained it to the council like this. Earth could not build enough real warships in 6 months. Even if they tried, the ships would be weak compared to alien technology. But Earth could build hundreds of automated platforms that looked like warships on sensors. They could reprogram old satellites to broadcast fake military signals. They could move their few real fighters around constantly, so it looked like they had more. The aliens would see what they expected to see: a powerful military force that was just staying hidden. Not everyone agreed with this plan. Admiral Kyung-hee was the commander of Earth's actual combat forces. She was older than Hai-jin and more traditional. She believed that resources spent on illusions should be spent on real weapons. She also had a different idea. Instead of pretending to be strong, Earth should find real allies. The Thessians were enemies of the Valkyrians. Maybe they would help Earth if approached correctly. The council split into two groups. One group believed in Tai Yang's deception plan. The other group believed in finding allies. The arguments became heated. Time was running out and humanity could not agree on what to do. Then Admiral Kyung-hee revealed something shocking. She had been secretly communicating with a Thessian ship that was approaching the solar system. She had done this without permission, hoping to establish first contact. Chancellor Daewon was furious, but it was too late. The Thessians were coming. The Thessian ship arrived 1 month after the Valkyrian attack. It was smaller than the Valkyrian warships but much more elegant. It was called the Meridian's Voice. The ship's commander was not a soldier. She was an envoy named Ralseth, and her job was studying primitive civilizations. This revealed what the Thessians thought about humanity. They believed Earth was a young species that got lucky against a damaged enemy patrol. They did not see humans as equals. Dr. Bora and Admiral Hai-jin were chosen to meet with Ralseth. The meeting took place on Sentinel Station, which had been quickly modified to look more impressive. Tai Yang's team had installed fake equipment everywhere. The station's simple research labs were disguised as weapon systems. The cargo bays were made to look like fighter hangars. Everything was designed to make Earth look more advanced than it really was. Ralseth arrived with 2 guards. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. She spoke through a translation device that made her voice sound strange and mechanical. Her first words were polite but condescending. She said the Thessian coalition was impressed that humanity had survived. She offered to protect Earth in exchange for Earth joining their alliance. But there was a catch. Earth would have to follow Thessian orders. They would have to fight in the Thessian War against the Valkyrians. Dr. Bora and Admiral Hai-jin had prepared for this. They had discussed what to say and how to act. They needed to convince Ralseth that Earth was not desperate. They needed to seem like a power that was choosing to stay neutral, not a weak species looking for protection. Dr. Bora spoke carefully. She explained that humanity had been observing the Galactic War for decades. Earth had chosen isolation not out of fear, but out of philosophy. Humanity did not believe in expansion and conquest. They preferred to defend their own territory. Ralseth seemed skeptical. She asked technical questions about Earth's military capabilities. How many ships did they have? What kind of weapons? How did their faster-than-light travel work? Dr. Bora deflected these questions cleverly. She talked about human scientific achievements instead. She mentioned quantum physics and artificial intelligence. She made Earth sound advanced in theory, even if they were weak in practice. Admiral Hai-jin supported this by showing Ralseth around the station. He let her scan the equipment, knowing it would show false readings thanks to Tai Yang's modifications. The meeting lasted 6 hours. Ralseth made her final offer. The Thessian coalition would provide intelligence about Valkyrian tactics and weaknesses. In return, Earth would join a defensive pact. They would not have to fight in the main war, but they would have to patrol a sector of space near Valkyrian territory. Essentially, the Thessians wanted to use Earth as a buffer zone. If the Valkyrians attacked, they would hit Earth first, giving the Thessians time to prepare. Admiral Hai-jin saw through this immediately. The Thessians were not offering friendship. They were offering to use humanity as shields. But he also saw an opportunity. He told Ralseth that Earth would think about the offer. He said they needed time to discuss it with their leaders. Ralseth agreed to wait, but she added something important. She said the Valkyrian revenge fleet would arrive in 4 months, not 6. They were coming faster than expected. This put more pressure on Earth to accept help. Back on Earth, the Council met again. Now they had to make a real decision. Accept the Thessian offer and become dependent on aliens, or refuse and face the Valkyrians alone. Admiral Kyung-hee argued strongly for accepting. She said pride was worthless if everyone was dead. Engineer Tae-yang argued just as strongly for refusing. He said once Earth accepted alien protection, they would never be free again. Captain Yan-woo surprised everyone by siding with Tae-yang. She had seen what humans could do in battle. She believed they should trust themselves. Dr. Bo-ra proposed a middle path. She suggested accepting information from the Thessians but refusing the defensive pact. Earth could claim they wanted to remain neutral in the Galactic War. This would make them look more powerful, not weaker. If Earth was truly weak, they would accept any help offered. But a strong power could afford to be selective. The Council debated this for days while Ralseth waited patiently in orbit. Finally, Admiral Hae-jin delivered Earth's response. He thanked Ralseth for the offer, but said humanity preferred strategic autonomy. Earth would be happy to exchange intelligence as equals, but they could not commit forces to operations beyond their own territory. He deliberately used the word forces plural, suggesting Earth had multiple fleets. Ralseth accepted this answer, though she seemed surprised. She provided the intelligence data about Valkyrian tactics as promised. Then she prepared to leave. Before the Thessian ship departed, Ralseth sent a private message to Admiral Hae-jin. The message said that Earth's response was either very brave or very foolish. She suspected both. She wished them good luck, but her tone suggested she did not think luck would be enough. The Meridian's voice left the solar system, and Earth was alone again. But now they had valuable intelligence about their enemy. 4 months felt like 4 days. Earth transformed completely during that time. Every person, every resource, every piece of technology was focused on one goal: survival. The moon's surface became covered with massive kinetic launchers. These were weapons that could throw heavy objects at incredible speeds. Mars, which had a small colony of researchers, became a manufacturing center. Everyone worked underground, building ammunition and automated defense drones. The asteroid belt turned into a minefield with thousands of hidden weapons waiting silently among the rocks. Engineer Tae-yang worked 20 hours a day. His teams were building the phantom fleet that would make Earth look powerful. Hundreds of platforms were scattered throughout the solar system. Each one broadcast false signals that mimicked real warships. Communication satellites were reprogrammed to create fake military chatter. Earth's few real fighters were constantly moved to different locations, making it seem like there were more of them. The deception was elaborate and convincing. From far away, it looked like Earth had a massive defense force. But underneath the deception, everyone knew the truth. Earth was still hopelessly outmatched. The Thessian intelligence data showed exactly what was coming. 17 Valkyrian warships, including a massive vessel called the Void Render. This dreadnought was 15 kilometers long, covered in weapons designed to destroy planets. If the Valkyrians could not conquer Earth through invasion, they would simply bombard it from space until nothing was left alive. Admiral Hae-jin, now the supreme commander of all Earth's defenses, gathered the War Council. The group included military leaders, scientists, engineers, and civilian representatives. It was humanity's first real war council, and everyone knew they were planning for probable extinction. The mood in the room was grim but determined. No one was talking about surrender anymore. That option had disappeared. Now they only talked about how to make the enemy pay the highest price possible. Captain Yan-woo presented her battle plan. She wanted to attack immediately when the Valkyrians arrived. Do not wait, do not defend passively. Strike hard and fast at the Void Render before it could deploy all its weapons. Her plan was simple and brutal. She would lead the fighter corps in a direct assault on the dreadnought. Most of her pilots would die, but they might cripple the command ship. It was a suicide mission, but Yan-woo believed it was their best chance. Admiral Kyung-hee had a different plan. She wanted to use the mines and automated weapons in the asteroid belt to force the Valkyrians to advance slowly, make them pay for every kilometer they traveled, wear them down before they reached Earth. It was a defensive strategy that played to humanity's advantages. They knew their own solar system perfectly. The Valkyrians did not. A new voice joined the debate. Lieutenant Nari was a former social worker who now coordinated civilian efforts. She represented the billions of people on Earth who had no military training but wanted to help. She made a surprising proposal. Stop hiding the truth from the population. Tell everyone exactly what was coming. Let them know the real odds. She believed humanity's greatest strength was not technology or tactics. It was the fact that they were fighting for their home. The Valkyrians were just soldiers in someone else's war. But humans were defending everything they loved. Her words affected everyone in the room. Chancellor Day-Wan made a decision that night. He would address the world and tell them everything. No propaganda, no false hope, just the truth. The next evening, every screen on Earth showed the Chancellor's face. He spoke calmly and honestly. He told humanity about the 17 warships coming to destroy them. He admitted that Earth would probably lose. But then he asked a simple question. Would humanity die silent, or would they die making sure the galaxy remembered they existed? The response shocked the government. People did not panic. Instead, they worked harder. Factory workers volunteered for 18-hour shifts. Scientists shared all their research freely, abandoning secrecy and competition. Artists and historians began documenting human culture and shooting it toward distant stars. Not to save themselves, but to leave a record. Even if humanity died, their story would survive. The Valkyrian fleet arrived exactly when predicted. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. For 3 days, they did nothing. They scanned the solar system carefully, studying everything. Thulvar, the Valkyrian commander aboard the Void Render, was being cautious. His previous ships had been destroyed by these humans. He would not underestimate them again. Dr. Bora monitored all Valkyrian communications. She could see they were confused. Their sensors showed military installations throughout the solar system. Far more than should exist for a species that had supposedly been hiding. The deception was working. The Valkyrians thought they were facing a prepared enemy with significant forces. They did not know most of those forces were fake. On the 4th day, Thulvar sent a new ultimatum. This message was different from his first one. It was longer and more respectful. He offered humanity the status of a tributary. This meant Earth would keep its government and culture, but it would have to serve Valkyrian interests. They would provide resources and military support when requested. It was better than slavery, but it was still submission. Thulvar gave Earth 48 hours to respond. The War Council knew this offer proved the deception was working. Thulvar was negotiating because he feared the cost of victory would be too high. If he thought Earth was truly weak, he would just attack, but everyone also knew the truth. Earth could not accept subordination. Humanity had not survived this long to become servants now. Admiral Heijin recorded Earth's response personally. He stood on the bridge of Sentinel Station with Earth visible in the viewport behind him. His message was direct. He addressed Thulvar by name and declined the offer. He said Earth was humanity's home and they would defend it. Then he added something that was not in the prepared script. He suggested that Thulvar should leave the solar system now. Not to save Earth, but to save his fleet. Heijin said humanity knew they could not win, but they could make victory cost more than it was worth. Every kilometer the Valkyrians advanced would be paid for in blood and metal. The message ended. 12 hours passed in silence. Then the Valkyrian fleet began moving toward Mars. The war had begun. Captain Yanwu sat in her fighter, hidden in the asteroid belt with her squadron. They were surrounded by rocks and debris, invisible to enemy sensors. Each fighter carried one of Taeyang's special weapons, a nuclear-powered laser that could fire once before it burned out. The weapon would kill the pilot through radiation, but that one shot could punch through any shield. Yanwu and her pilots had all volunteered knowing they would not survive. She watched her tactical display as the Valkyrian ships entered the belt. Suddenly, thousands of automated weapons platforms activated. The asteroids came alive with defensive fire. Kinetic projectiles launched from hidden positions. Nuclear mines detonated. Missiles streaked through space. The Valkyrians had expected some resistance, but not this much. 3 of their ships took immediate damage. Not destroyed, but hurt. Atmosphere and debris vented into space. The Valkyrian fleet scattered, breaking their tight formation. This was exactly what Admiral Kyung-hee had predicted. Scattered ships were vulnerable. More platforms activated, targeting the isolated vessels. Within 2 hours, 7 Valkyrian ships were badly damaged. The remaining 10, including the Void Render, accelerated hard toward the inner solar system. They were abandoning their damaged ships and pushing forward. This was Yanwu's moment. She received the authorization code. Execute Operation Prometheus, attack. Captain Yanwu ignited her fighter's engines. Around her, 147 other pilots did the same. They burst from their hiding places among the asteroids, accelerating at maximum burn toward the fleeing Valkyrian fleet. The human fighters were tiny compared to the alien warships, but they were fast and maneuverable. More importantly, every pilot knew this was a one-way trip. That knowledge made them incredibly dangerous. The Valkyrians detected the fighters immediately and opened fire. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light. The first human fighter exploded in seconds. Then 2 more, then 5. The Valkyrians were focused on the automated weapons behind them and could not give full attention to the fighters. But their defensive systems were still deadly. Yanwu watched her tactical display as pilot names turned red. Each red name was someone she knew, someone she had trained with, someone who was now dead. But the remaining fighters kept coming. They wove through the defensive fire, moving in patterns that confused the Valkyrian targeting systems. Yanwu led Alpha Squadron directly at the Void Render. The massive dreadnought was still accelerating, trying to escape the asteroid belt. Its command tower rose from the hull like a mountain. That was Yanwu's target. If they could cripple the command systems, the entire ship would be blind. She gave the order. Alpha Squadron split into attack groups. Each group would strike the same section of the dreadnought one after another. The goal was to overload the shields in one specific area. Pilot Dongyun went first. He dove toward the command tower at impossible speed. The Void Render's defenses locked onto him and fired. His fighter took multiple hits, but he kept going. At the last possible moment, he triggered his weapon. The nuclear-powered laser fired for exactly 1 second. In that second, it delivered more energy than 100 nuclear bombs. The beam carved through the Void Render's shields like they were paper. It burned a molten line across the dreadnought's hull. Then Donghyun's fighter disintegrated. The radiation from his own weapon had killed him instantly, but his sacrifice had worked. The shields in that section were down. Pilot Haiwan went next, targeting the same area. Her laser hit the exposed hull directly. Metal vaporized. Internal systems exploded. Then she was gone too, consumed by radiation. Pilot Ji Young followed. Then Wonshik. One by one, Alpha Squadron died. Each death added more damage to the same section of the Void Render. The command tower began to crack. Explosions rippled across its surface. Yanwu was last. She watched her entire squadron die before her eyes. Each death was necessary. Each death bought humanity a few more seconds. She locked her targeting systems on the wounded command tower. Her finger moved to the trigger. But then something unexpected happened. The command tower exploded on its own. The accumulated damage from 8 laser strikes had caused a catastrophic failure. Secondary explosions spread across the dreadnought's hull. The Void Render was crippled. Yanwu realized she did not need to die. Her mission was complete. Killing herself now would be wasteful. She broke off her attack run and ordered all remaining fighters to retreat. They had lost 89 pilots, but they had crippled the enemy command ship. It was a terrible price, but it had worked. Deep inside the dying Void Render, Commander Thulvar faced a choice. His ship was crippled. His fleet was scattered and damaged. 7 ships were destroyed or combat ineffective. He had underestimated these humans badly. They fought with a ferocity and creativity he had never encountered. Their weapons were primitive but used cleverly. Their tactics were unorthodox but effective. Worst of all, they seemed willing to die to win. That kind of determination was rare and dangerous. Thulvar had 2 options. He could commit his remaining ships to bombarding Earth, ensuring the planet died even if it cost him the rest of his fleet. Or he could withdraw and accept humiliation. In Valkyrian culture, retreat was shameful. But Thulvar was also a survivor. He had lived through decades of war by knowing when to conserve resources. He studied his tactical displays and made his decision. He sent a message to Earth. On Sentinel Station, Admiral Heijin received Thulvar's transmission with shock. The Valkyrian commander was offering to withdraw. He called it an honorable peace between worthy opponents. The Valkyrians would leave Earth's solar system if humanity agreed not to pursue the damaged ships. It was not surrender, but it was close enough. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. But before the War Council could respond, something else happened. 3 new ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were not Valkyrian. They were Thessian. The Meridian's voice had returned along with 2 Thessian warships. Envoy Ralseth sent a message immediately. She offered to help Earth eliminate the Valkyrian fleet completely. She made it sound generous, but Admiral Heijin saw the trap immediately. If the Thessians helped destroy the Valkyrians, Earth would be in debt to them. More importantly, the Thessians would see exactly how weak humanity actually was. They would discover that most of Earth's defenses were illusions. The entire deception would collapse. Earth would become a Thessian protectorate, dependent on alien protection. But Ralseth's arrival also put pressure on Thulvar. If Earth accepted Thessian help, the Valkyrian fleet was doomed. Admiral Heijin made a bold decision. He opened a communication channel that included all 3 parties, Earth, the Valkyrians, and the Thessians. For the first time, all 3 powers were talking directly. Heijin spoke carefully, choosing every word with precision. He told Thulvar that Earth accepted the withdrawal offer. The Valkyrians would leave immediately and transmit official recognition of Earth's territory to their empire. Then he turned to Ralseth. He thanked the Thessians for their offer but declined. Earth preferred to resolve this conflict independently. The message accomplished several things at once. It showed the Valkyrians that Earth was powerful enough to dictate terms. It showed the Thessians that Earth was confident enough to refuse help. Most importantly, it prevented either alien power from learning too much about human capabilities. Thulvar accepted immediately. He was getting to escape with his life and most of his fleet. That was more than he had expected after the losses he had taken. Ralseth's response was harder to read. She acknowledged Earth's decision in a neutral tone. But then she added something unexpected. She transmitted a massive data package to Earth. It contained detailed information about Valkyrian and Thessian technology, military protocols, and maps of the Galactic War's front lines. It was a gift that transformed Earth from ignorant to informed. Ralseth said it was a gesture of respect from the Thessian coalition. But Heijin suspected she had other motives. The Thessians were investing in Earth's future, hoping humanity would remember this kindness. Over the next 2 days, the Valkyrian fleet withdrew from the solar system. They left behind 7 destroyed or crippled warships that humanity could salvage for technology. It was a treasure trove of advanced equipment. Captain Yanwu, still alive and trying to process what had happened, led recovery operations. She flew through the wreckage of alien ships, seeing up close the damage her squadron had inflicted. She thought about her dead pilots and wondered if the cost had been worth it. The Thessian ships remained for 3 days, observing everything. Dr. Bora monitored their scans anxiously, knowing they were gathering intelligence. But Engineer Tae Yang's deceptions held. The Phantom Fleet continued broadcasting false signals. The Thessians saw what they expected to see, a sophisticated military power that preferred isolation. When Ralseth finally departed, she left the data package behind like a calling card, a reminder that the Thessians were watching and would return. Chancellor Daewon addressed the world again. He stood in the same spot where he had told humanity the truth about the coming invasion. But now his message was different. He said they had survived. They had won. But he also said survival was never the real question. The question was what came after. The galaxy now knew Earth existed. Isolation was impossible. Humanity had to decide what role they would play in a hostile galaxy. Would they hide again, or would they engage with the universe? 1 year after the Battle of the Belt, Earth was a different world. The solar system bristled with weapons and defenses. But more importantly, Earth had become famous. The story of humanity's stand against the Valkyrian Empire had spread across the galaxy. Both sides of the Great War had transmitted the tale, each with their own interpretation. To the Valkyrians, it was a cautionary story about underestimating unknown opponents. To the Thessians, humanity was a potential ally worth cultivating. But to the smaller species caught between the warring giants, Earth represented something else. Hope. If humans could survive first contact with a superior force, maybe others could too. If a primitive species could force a Valkyrian fleet to retreat, maybe the great powers were not as invincible as they seemed. Earth had unintentionally become a symbol of resistance. This brought both opportunities and dangers. Smaller alien civilizations were interested in humanity, but so were the major powers. Everyone wanted to know Earth's secrets. Dr. Bora, now the head of Earth's Xena Relations Department, spent her days managing communications with dozens of alien species. Some were friendly, some were cautious. A few were openly hostile. One particular message caught her attention. It came from a confederation called the Kalar Harmonies. This group consisted of 17 different species who maintained neutrality in the Galactic War through collective defense. They were not powerful individually, but together they could deter attacks. The Kalar wanted to meet with Earth's leaders. The Kalar envoy, Ambassador Voth, arrived in a single unarmed ship broadcasting friendship on all frequencies. This was very different from the Valkyrian warships or even the Thessian diplomatic vessel. Voth himself was unlike any alien humans had met. Where Valkyrians were aggressive and Thessians were calculating, the Kalar were cautious and philosophical. Voth explained his proposal simply. The Kalar Harmonies invited Earth to join their confederation. Membership would provide protection and trade access. In return, Earth would contribute to mutual defense by sharing technology and intelligence. It sounded perfect. Too perfect. Chancellor Day 1 was immediately suspicious. Engineer Tai Yang analyzed the proposal carefully and found the problem. Kalar membership required complete technological disclosure. Every member had to share all military capabilities. This was designed to prevent surprise attacks between members, but it would expose Earth's deception. The Kalar would discover that most of humanity's defenses were illusions. Earth's carefully maintained reputation would collapse. This created a new crisis. Earth's leadership split into factions again. Lieutenant Nari, who had been promoted to director of the diplomatic corps, led the integrationists. They believed isolation was always unsustainable. Earth had survived one threat through deception and luck. They would not survive forever by pretending to be stronger than they were. Better to join an established alliance, accept short-term vulnerability, and gain long-term security through collective defense. Admiral Kyung-hee led the sovereigntists. They argued that joining the Kalar meant accepting permanent second-class status. Earth would always be the weakest member, dependent on others for protection. Better to maintain independence, continue developing real capabilities, and establish humanity's position through actual strength rather than alliance politics. Captain Yanwu surprised everyone by proposing a third option. Instead of joining an existing alliance, Earth should create its own. There were dozens of species like humanity scattered across the galaxy. Emerging civilizations caught between the great powers, trying to survive without being crushed. Humanity should reach out to these species and build a new confederation, designed specifically for those who wanted to avoid being absorbed by either the Valkyrians or Thessians. While Earth's leaders debated, Dr. Bora made a disturbing discovery. She had been monitoring galactic communications and found encrypted messages between the Valkyrians and Thessians. The two empires, enemies for decades, were conducting secret peace negotiations. The Galactic War was ending, but not through military victory, through political settlement. The two powers were planning to divide the galaxy into spheres of influence. Dr. Bora presented her findings to the War Council. The implications were catastrophic. When the war ended, neutral confederations like the Kalar would face pressure to choose sides. Emerging powers like Earth would be forced to submit to one empire or the other. The chaos that had allowed humanity to maneuver between powers was about to end. Worse yet, in the proposed settlement, Earth's sector was designated as a contested buffer zone. Both empires wanted to control humanity because of Earth's strategic location between their territories. This revelation changed everything. Ambassador Voth's timing suddenly made sense. The Kalar knew about the peace negotiations. They were trying to secure allies before the post-war order solidified. The offer to Earth was not generosity, it was survival strategy. The Kalar needed more members to remain relevant when the galaxy divided into two blocks. Chancellor Day 1 called an emergency council session. Every faction presented their arguments again, but with new urgency. Time was running out. The peace treaty between Valkyrians and Thessians could be signed within months. After that, Earth would have no room to maneuver. They would have to choose submission to one empire or the other, unless they found protection elsewhere. Engineer Tai Yang, the architect of Earth's grand deception, made an unexpected speech. He said the deception had served its purpose. It had bought humanity time to survive and develop, but continuing the deception indefinitely would be dangerous. It would transform Earth into a civilization built on lies rather than real strength. At some point, the truth would be exposed. Better to accept short-term vulnerability than permanent dishonesty. Better to find real allies than maintain fake strength. His words resonated with many council members. The vote was close, but ultimately the council decided to accept Kalar membership with modifications. Earth proposed that members should share technology gradually over 5 years, rather than immediately. This would buy humanity time to strengthen before their full capabilities became known. It was a compromise that addressed both security concerns and honesty requirements. Ambassador Voth accepted Earth's counter-proposal immediately. This revealed that the Kalar had expected negotiation. They understood that new members would want conditions. Earth's insistence on gradual disclosure actually increased Kalar respect. It showed strategic thinking rather than desperate need for protection. The formal ceremony took place on Sentinel Station. Dr. Bora represented humanity. She delivered a speech that acknowledged both Earth's achievements and limitations. She did not pretend humanity was more powerful than they were, but she also did not apologize for being new to galactic civilization. She said the galaxy had judged humanity by their silence, assuming absence meant weakness. When forced to fight, humans had proven they could be dangerous. Now humanity chose to speak, to engage, to build rather than destroy. The speech was carefully crafted to send messages to multiple audiences. To the Valkyrians and Thessians, it said Earth was aligning with neutral powers, making conquest more complicated. To potential allies, it said humanity was available for cooperation. To Earth's population, it said the era of isolation was over, but humanity was entering the galactic community on their own terms. In the months following the ceremony, the galactic landscape shifted. Earth's decision to join the Kalar inspired 4 other emerging species to request membership. The Confederation grew stronger. The Valkyrian-Thessian peace negotiations slowed as both empires reconsidered their positions. A larger, stronger Kalar harmonies changed their calculations. Captain Yanwu, now promoted to Admiral, took command of the Terran Explorer Corps. This was humanity's first deep space exploration program. They sent ships beyond the solar system to map unknown regions and make contact with isolated species. Everywhere they went, they delivered the same message. You do not have to face the galaxy alone. There are alternatives to submission and isolation. 5 years after joining the Kalar, Earth was a very different place. The Confederation had grown from 17 species to 32. Humanity was no longer the newest or weakest member. They had become mentors, teaching other emerging species how to survive in a dangerous galaxy. The deception that had saved Earth was gradually revealed as technology sharing progressed, but by then it did not matter. Earth had proven their value through intelligence, creativity, and determination rather than raw military power. The Valkyrian-Thessian peace treaty was eventually signed, creating the two-block galaxy everyone had feared. But the expanded Kalar harmonies represented a third center of power, not through military dominance but through collective defense and economic cooperation. The great empires could not ignore a confederation of 32 species working together. Earth from space looked the same as always. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But the planet was no longer hidden behind cloaking fields. It was surrounded by ships from dozens of worlds. The species that had chosen silence had become a beacon. The civilization that had hidden in fear was now a bridge between the isolated and the engaged, between the weak and the powerful, between those who feared the galaxy and those who hoped to change it.